This was a section of the trail I really look forward to riding. The town of Jarrahdale is not far east of where I live, and it's a beautiful old historic townsite. And it's nestled in part of the state forest, and the surrounds are absolutely wonderful. You can be so lucky out there that you've got the whole place to yourself. I planned on setting out from Jarrahdale, riding east towards the Balmoral POW Camp, and then heading northwards towards Wungong campsite and out to Albany Highway, and that would complete that section of the trail for me, and then I'd ride it back in. But some days things don't quite go according to plan. The day started off pretty uneventfully, and eagle-eyed viewers might spot the kangaroo on the right-hand side a little earlier in the video. I got to the Balmoral camp pretty uneventfully and really enjoyed the ride out there, but it was afterwards that things came unstuck. So stick with me on the journey to the Balmoral POW camp and then onwards to the Wungong campsite, and I'll show you exactly what happened. This is the Balmoral POW campsite, and I had no idea it was here until I started looking at the Munda Biddi trail. And it's amazing the history you have in your own backyard, and unless you go out and find it, sometimes you just don't know. But in 1943-44, a number of Italian prisoners were taken from North Africa and shipped all the way across the world to Western Australia, about 30 kilometres east of Perth, and they sat out the remainder of the Second World War, cutting timber and working around the site. Now, there's not much here today other than some concrete foundations and a fireplace, but I'm just blown away by the fact that it's here in the first place and how well preserved the remainder of the site is, and it's just a great place to visit if you're out on the trail. All right, quick update of where we've come from. This is Jarrahdale, where we started this morning. We've taken the trail down through this beautiful bushland to the Balmoral POW camp. Next, we're going to head off in a northerly direction to the second campsite on the trail, which is the Wungong campsite, and a little further down to Albany Highway. Once we get there, going to come back the whole way through again. So a really nice, long, challenging ride today. I have mentioned it before, but one of the beauties of the trail is that you've almost got it to yourself. In this whole section, I only saw one other mountain bike rider coming in the opposite direction and one four-wheel drive, so it was just beautiful being out there. But of course the dilemma is that you're a long way from the road and there's almost nobody else around you when you're riding solo. And that means that when something goes wrong, you're pretty much on your own. Now, the other thing that I noticed on this section of the ride was that the surface has changed quite a bit as well. There were patches where it was quite sandy, then it would go back on the wider trails to this bauxite surface, and then in other sections they'd be quite close under a canopy and they're covered in leaves. But overall, there weren't the same steep inclines that I'd seen in the other sections. So it didn't take long for me to build up my confidence on these trails and start to move a little bit faster, a little too confidently and a little too quickly. Okay. Yeah, I picked myself up and I was stunned. I hit the ground that hard. And in retrospect, now I've had a look at the video, I can see what I've done. I've come up to a bend too quickly. I started to lean into it. I tried to wash some speed off and I tapped the brakes, and I was looking at a rock that I was coming up to, and it just took the front wheel out from underneath me straight away. So my own error, rookie error, rather than hitting the rock and bouncing off. But I picked myself up and I knew I was hurt. My right elbow was open deep into the flesh, and I was hurting all over. So I realised that I wouldn't be able to do the rest of the trip. And ironically, I was only a couple of kilometres away from the turn point, so not far away from where I would have naturally stopped and started my way back. But I had to get back home. There was no alternative other than to hop back on the bike and ride out. So I took the quick way out, and that was to find the nearest road that led to Jarrahdale and ride out down that road. So ran about 15 kilometres, and a good while later I arrived back at my car. I think I was still in a bit of shock from what had actually happened, and I'll follow up towards the end with the outcome of the whole thing. So just stick with me for a couple more minutes, and yeah, we'll see where this ride eventually took me. And I'm back to wrap up. Here's what happened. By the time I got back to the car, I really wasn't feeling that well at all. This left hand was really starting to hurt. So I took myself down to the local hospital emergency department, and they did a fantastic job of looking after me and sorting me out. So I ended up with some stitches in this elbow. I've lost a fair bit of skin down this right leg, and there's some bruises. But what I didn't realise when I came off the bike was that I'd done some damage here, but I was acutely aware of it by the time I got back to the car. So there's a broken bone there and a cast, and that'll keep me off the bike for a few weeks. But I'm really fortunate. I did a bit of a Superman as I came off, and both hands went forward to cushion the fall. I think if you look at the last few frames as I come off that bike, you'll see my right hand go out. I think it's my right hand go out and contact the ground. And I guess from that point of view, I'm really lucky that it wasn't my head, because that could have been a very different story. So there's a couple of elements to it, aren't there? One is ride within your skill level, and the other is, of course, to make sure that you're wearing a bike helmet. Anyway, if you've stuck with me so far, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it, because there was literally blood, sweat, and tears in making this one. I am off the trail for a few weeks. I do have some ideas for other videos. So in the meantime, until we talk again, look after yourselves and be safe. And remember, 6 words: exercise often, be curious, enjoy life. See you next time. Bye-bye.